Hey guys, welcome to chapter 2.3 of ACE International History AS level. So, the central question for this unit is how successful were attempts to improve international relations from 1924 to 1929? So, let's talk about the subunits. 2.3a talks about the economic recovery and improved relations, and it also kind of just gives like a background to 2.3b, which is aims and impacts of international treaties and conferences. And then 2.3c is the changing relations between major powers. Here's the vocabulary we have to know and some things that will just help you understand it better, including people. So let's talk about reparations. These are the payments Germany was forced to make to compensate for World War One, and it was a vocabulary that was mentioned last unit as well. Isolationism, also mentioned previously, which is the USA's policy of staying out of other countries' political affairs. The gold standard, which is a tying a currency's value to gold, a sign of economic stability. The Little Entente, which is France's network of alliances with smaller Eastern European countries for security. And then we have some people, we have Stressman and Bryan, which are German and French foreign ministers whose cooperation symbolized the era's peace efforts. So let's talk about 2.3a. After World War One, Europe was in a bad shape. Countries had piled up debt, lost trade, and were dealing with high inflation. France and Belgium had even sent troops into Germany's Ruhr region to force it to pay war reparations, basically a punishment payment for starting the war. Tensions were high, and a solution was desperately needed. So the USA, while officially staying out of the world affairs due to isolationism, quietly played a huge economical role because it needed its loans repaid. So, the aims and impacts of international treaties and conferences. So, the Dawes Plan. U.S. banker Charles Dawes helped restructure Germany's repayment schedule. France pulled troops out of Ruhr. Germany got U.S. loans to stabilize its economy, and the total owed didn't change, but the annual payments were made more manageable for Germany. Okay, so next let's talk about the Locarno Conference. Germany, France, and Belgium officially agreed to respect their shared borders. Britain and Italy promised to help any country attacked in violation of the deal. Germany's foreign minister Stressman accepted Germany's losses, a huge sign of like goodness, and then or like goodwill, I guess. Okay, and then Germany joins the league as a direct result of Locarno. Germany was accepted into the League of Nations, a major step towards treating Germany as a normal, respected nation again instead of a punished enemy after the Treaty of Versailles and the Paris Peace Conference. Sorry. Okay, next is the Kellogg-Briand Pact. Over 60 countries signed an agreement outlaw and settle disputes peacefully. It sounded great, according to many, but had zero enforcement. If a country broke it, nothing would happen, and the USA signed but refused to commit to any actions. So lastly is the Young Plan. Germany's total reparation bill was slashed from 6.6 billion, or I don't know how to say it, not slashed, but cut down from 6.6 billion to 2 billion, which is drastic. And basically admitting the original amount was unrealistic. International controls over Germany's economy were also removed, giving Germany a little bit more freedom. Okay, so 2.3c, which talks about changing relations between the major powers. First, we're going to look at France. So, France took a friendlier approach to Germany after its Ruhr occupation failed and hurt relations with Britain. France accepted the Dawes Plan because it knew Germany could not pay full reparations at the time. And despite better relations, France still feared Germany and doubted Britain would help if Germany attacked again. France formed alliances in Eastern Europe called the Little Entente to improve its security. These alliances and the League of Nations did little to protect France because they were too weak to enforce decisions. France remains uneasy about Russia, especially after Germany and Russia signed the Rapallo and Berlin treaties. Excuse me. Okay, next let's talk about Britain. Britain stayed suspicious of communists, Russia, and worried about its influence on British colonies. Britain broke off relations with Russia in 1927 but restored them after signing a new trade deal in 1929, which was 2 years later. So now USA, even though the USA claimed isolationism, it still influenced world affairs because it needed to protect its foreign trade. The USA supported European recovery so its allies could repay war debts and buy American goods. American loans to Germany caused a cycle where money went from the USA to Germany, then to Britain, and then to Britain to France, and then back to the USA. So it's a little complicated, but yeah. Next is Germany. Strussman was willing to compromise with former enemies to recover Germany's economy and gain respect. Germany accepted the Treaty of Versailles at Locarno and joins the League of Nations as a permanent member in 1926. Lastly is the USSR. The USSR stayed isolated because other countries feared communism and disliked its close relations with Germany. Western nations restored um, excuse me, Western nations restored diplomatic ties with the USSR, but trust remains low throughout the 1920s. The USA refused to recognize the USSR, and Russia remained resentful about being excluded from the Paris Peace Conference and the League of Nations. Thank you. That is all for 2.3. It is a shorter unit, so tune back in for the last chapter or subunit of chapter 2, which is 2.4. See you then. Bye.